When you look at what is going on in Osun State right now, the political tension is very, very high because of the election that is forthcoming. The governor there moved from PDP to Accord Party. And the Accord Party is an opposition party to the power at the center, the ruling party, the APC. So it's among the 5 states that the APC is not controlling. So when actions of this nature happens, many will begin to perceive it that the APC is using the EFCC to kind of intimidate, the state government and be able to muscle the state from them. That is exactly the perspective, the perception of people. And election just happened in Ekiti State. Is it last month or last 2 months? And nothing of this nature happened. Is it that the Ekiti State is a saint? EFCC is supposed to be independent organization. They are not supposed to be taking directive from the president. They're supposed to follow the act that established them and the constitution to be able to do their job. But if president can sit in Aso Rock and direct the EFCC chairman to go and vacate a freeze order, the same way the president can direct the EFCC chairman to go after somebody, to go after organization, to go after anybody who is not in tandem with him. That is what this thing just revealed. Which means EFCC technically is not independent. EFCC is doing their job, but the people are not seeing the action they took to freezing that account as being fair to the state. On the 5th of August, 2026, the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, the EFCC, frozen the account of Osun State government on the guise that there are suspicious, transactions that is going on in that account. They did not frozen the whole of Osun State account. They frozen a specific, account. I think they call it ecological, fund account. That's the account that was frozen by the EFCC. So, according to what the EFCC's, Director of Public Affairs said, that they have, the mandate by law to frozen the account, having obtained a court order. So, one may wonder, why now that Osun State is about to contest their gubernatorial election in the next 10 days from the date the account was frozen? I think the election is scheduled for 15th of August, 2026, and the state account was frozen on the 5th of August, just barely 10 days to the election. So many Nigerians, were wondering, why now? When EFCC claimed that they have been conducting investigation, on that account, and that's when the suspicious activity was flagged, the question remains, why didn't they frozen the account as at that time? Why did they wait until 10 days to the governorship election in the state, knowing fully well that the state government has several obligations to meet? They pay salaries, they pay contractors, they pay debt servicing, so many things that they do through that account that was frozen. And if you may ask me, there's no saying the fact that probably that particular account must be the state account that has so much money compared to other states' account, because there's no any other reason, that we make them to target that particular account, no matter whatever they say about suspicious activities and all of that. But, having dived into, this issue, trying to understand, the level of powers the EFCC has, in terms of freezing that account, I understood that EFCC has powers to frozen account that is suspected to, hold the proceeds of crime. The question remains, does that state account that they frozen, does it hold proceeds of crime? Well, your guess is as good as mine, because the state government receive allocation from the federal government, account allocation committee, the FAC, right? And also they receive funding from their internally generated revenue. These are just the 2 key major ways that they receive, funding to run the state. And that is the reason why, like when they were investigating Abubakar Malami, the former, Attorney General of the Federation, his account can be frozen because they believe that that account contains crime, funds, money obtained illegitimately from whichever sources. The question now remains the timing. This is where everybody is pinching their tent. Why now? That is the question that the EFCC is meant to answer. Why now? Why didn't you guys do this thing earlier before now? So the why now is what we are going to look at in this video. And at the end of the day, we'll be able to come to a conclusion of what may be happening within Osun State government. So guys, this is Andy Media TV and you're welcome to my channel. So feel free to support this channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing this video to a wider audience so that other people can see what is going on within our polity. Thank you for those who have subscribed to this channel. All right, so let's look into the things that we want to cover in this video. So, but I think the first step is going to be we need to listen to what the Director of Public Affairs in the EFCC has to say why they've frozen the account. When we have listened to him, then we'll come back and probably listen to one other, legal, public analyst who also have an opinion based on what really transpired. And then we'll be able to wrap up this video. So let's start with the Director of Public Affairs, Osun State of the EFCC. Let's listen to him and hear what he has to say.
Well, thank you, Rufai, for that question. As we indicated in the statement released by the Commission, we took that step to preserve the account of the Osun State government. We observed in the past 1 week that activities on that account look suspicious. And based on the mandate of the Commission, we took that step of placing a restriction order on that account to preserve that account. That restriction order does not mean that all the accounts of Osun State has been frozen. No, it is just a targeted restriction on one account of Osun State government. The essence, like I said, is just to preserve that account because we observe suspicious activities on that account in terms of transfer of funds to a number of entities within 1 week. And so we have to take that decision to place a restriction order on that account, not minding the fact that there is an election process in place. We have a responsibility under the law to do so, because if we don't take that step and, for instance, funds are looted from the account of Osun State government, I'm sure Nigerian public will also ask, where was the EFCC when those funds were being moved? So we have to take a preventive action in placing that restriction order to preserve the money in the account. It does not stop the Osun State from running the government of Osun State government from running the government of the state, because they have access to other funds in the other accounts that they have. In any case, the running of the payment of salaries and other expenditure by state government happens just once in a month. And what we have done is not a blanket freezing of the account, it's just targeted freezing. And once we are satisfied that activities on that account are no longer suspicious, it will be lifted. And a number of people have asked the question whether the Commission has power to do so under the law. I can assure you that we have powers to place temporary restriction on an account. Section 34 of the EFCC Act and Section 7, subsection 6 of the Money Laundering Provision Act 2022 give us that authority to take that step. And that the restriction order can last within 72 hours before we can come with a court order if we need to provide a court order.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Wilson. I mean, a number of questions have come up. Number one is that I saw from the press release from the EFCC that this investigation has been ongoing since March 2026. You detail the ecological fund, questions raised around that. I believe on the broader level, what people would want to ask is Osun State the only state that you are investigating? Are there other states in Nigeria that is currently under investigation, if you have the liberty to reveal? Again, going back to the timing of this, just a few days to the Osun elections, of course, you would understand the political tensions that currently exist in Osun State and accusations from the government of Osun State when it comes to state interference and tools used to muzzle their opportunity at the elections. This doesn't look very good for that. So I'd like you to share that. Number one, the urgency, the timing. Was it a matter of emergency or urgency? Then, is Osun State the only state that you are investigating? And since you were talking about investigations, since the EFCC is talking about how proactive it is, we had Hajia Shehu from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs come. I don't know if you watched the interview with Arise about last week or 2 weeks ago, where she talked about clearing her name for the sake of posterity and how she's written multiple letters to the EFCC, no response. That's an issue that's pending. This level of urgency and expediency was not given to that. Why Osun State in this instance?
Let me address the issue of urgency. I mentioned the fact that we have noticed some suspicious activities in the last 1 week, especially beginning from August 2nd, a number of transactions that look suspicious, and we had to act. If you look at the election cycle in Nigeria, you observe that once we have election at the subnational level, and a new government comes in. The first thing that they talk about is that, look, my predecessor emptied the treasury and we have nothing to use to run the government. And some of them may not even be able to pay salary. They go as far as going to banks to collect money to pay salary. Now we have a situation on our hands where the commission observed that the statutory account of this state government, there are suspicious activities, and we had a responsibility to act under the law. People, like you rightly ask, why now? Because it's just like 9 days to the state election. If we say because of what people will say, because of insinuations that will be made, we should fold our hands. We'll be failing our duty to Nigerians. We'll also be failing our duty to the people of Osun. The decision that the EFCC is taking is to preserve the resources of that state. We are not from Osun State, and the chairman of the commission is also not from Osun State. But we have a responsibility because the laws allow us to take preventive actions to preserve the resources of a state or any account for that matter. If we observe that there are suspicious dealings on that account, that is the decision that the commission take. And if we didn't take that decision, and like I mentioned earlier, things happened, things went awry. After the election, people will also raise the question, where was the EFCC? Why did they not take action? And as leaders, we should be able to take difficult decision in difficult moment. This for us and the EFCC was a very difficult decision to take because we know that people will raise insinuation. But we had to take that decision because it is our mandate to do so, and it is proper to do so because we need to preserve those resources for the people of Osun State. I believe that the government of Osun State even need to commend the EFCC.
Welcome back. You had him. He said that the major reason they frozen the account was because they uncovered some suspicious, transactions or activity going on in that account. And from the financial, point of view, when an account is, seen or observed to be, carrying out some kind of transaction that looks suspicious, yes, they have the capacity to do what? To step in, to be able to kind of forestall those activities. Let's assume that the funds are going to, places that are not supposed to go, like what he was saying in that video, that the funds were money moved to different, companies and all of that. So, but I think what the EFCC, would do was kind of investigate those companies to find out if they have a legitimate, business with the government. Maybe they are contractors or they are suppliers or whatever they may be, and then be able to check the historical records. When were these people engaged by the government? For how long have they been, doing this activity for the state government? How were they being paid in the past and all of that? So there are a lot of data to have to, you need to triangulate, you need to cross-reference to be able to come to a conclusion that something illegitimate is happening in this account. So the fact is that at times, it's not that people are doing what is wrong, They may be doing what is right, they may be following the rules, but the time upon which they, carry out those assignments may be the wrong time. Someone may ask, is there any time that is wrong for EFCC to, kind of block funds, kind of catch a criminal and all of that? Well, when you look at what is going on in Osun State right now, the political tension is very, very high because of the election that is forthcoming. And you know that Osun State is an opposition party. The governor there moved from PDP to Accord Party. And the Accord Party is an opposition party to the power at the center, the ruling party, the APC. So it's among the 5 states that the APC is not controlling. So when actions of this nature happens, many will begin to perceive it that the APC is using the EFCC to kind of intimidate, the state government and be able to muzzle the state from them. That is exactly the perspective, the perception of people. And when you look at the timing when this thing came, 10 days to the election, you want to freeze in the state account. The state that's supposed to, spend money to pay contractors, to pay salaries, to pay for whatever obligation they are tied to. You just want to freeze in the account, even if they have legitimate cause to do that. But because the state is going into election, and that state is not the state that connects to the ruling party, then you're going to send a wrong signal that these guys are really serious to, trying to muzzle, that state to join the APC. Because I know initially they wooed the governor, but the governor said, no, he's not going into APC. I think the deal did not work out. That's why he, kind of joined the Accord Party. So it's an opposition party. And election just happened in Ekiti State. Is it last month or last 2 months? And nothing of this nature happened. Is it that the Ekiti State is a saint? That their account, that funds are not moving from there to, companies that are suspicious? So when you look at all of that, the EFCC did not bite in Ekiti State because Ekiti State is a party that belongs to the ruling party, the APC. So you can see how people will, place their actions in different, frames and begin to see that this is partisan, this is intimidation, this is political interference. That is exactly what, everybody is looking at it to be. And the state government has come out to say that they are even supporting President Bola Tinubu in his presidential campaign, in his presidential bid, that they will support him, that the state will vote for him to win his re-election. So that's why the governor was shouting, Mr. President, what else do you want from us? We have said we are supporting you. So why are you people, trying to muzzle us out of the election? Why is our account frozen? This and that and that and that. So you see that. So to him, he felt that when he pay allegiance to the president, that they are supporting him for his election bid, that everything will be rosy for him. Probably that's what he thought. So he was shocked, waking up to hear that the state account was frozen. Freezing the Osun State account 10 days to election send a wrong signal. So my question remains, is it that these officials of government, they don't sit down and, take an overview of what they intend to do? Why are they doing it? What are the legal backing for them to do it? What will be citizens' perception to this? How will this affect the image of government? And so on and so forth. So there are a lot of things you query before you take some, action. Even a child of 12 years should be able to know that if we do this, you're going to raise a public outcry, and it's going to seem as if the government is intimidating the state to be able to win the state, right? So a little child should be able to understand that. But it's because when these guys want something, just like President will always say, that power is not served in a la carte, right? That you need to grab it, snatch it, and run with it. It is what it is. So they are fighting at all fronts. And when an election is off cycle, there's room for, the ruling party to mobilize a lot of security to that particular state, because there's no other state holding an election at that time. So all eyes will be on that state. And in most cases, they normally use these security operatives to even rig the election, as the case may be. So the issue of freezing is one diversion. On the election day, you're going to see the number of, security operatives that will be in that state. And a lot will still happen. But if I were them, whatever they have planned to do in Osun State, if I were them, I would suspend it, let that governor win back, continue his tenure, so that it will sound as if they are free, fair, and credible in whatever they do. Otherwise, if they grab that state by hook or sinker, you're going to send the wrong signal for what is going to come in 2027 general election. So they should be wise. Allow Ademola Adeleke to continue his job in the state. It is the duty of the state to decide what happens to him. But with what has just happened, if APC wins that state, forget it. No, everybody will lose hope in the 2027 general election completely. People have lost hope already, but it will be total hope. In that day of election, you may only see only APC people voting, to be honest with you, because nobody will believe in the system anymore. And then that will also tarnish the image of INEC, because everybody will say they rigged the election. INEC rigged it for them. So government should think ahead, think of implication of their actions, think on the perception of the people, because when people's perception is too low, then they will not be part of that process. It is when their perception is high, they believe that government is doing the right thing. That's where you see the citizens partake in that process. So it is what it is. However, let's hear from Dr. Sam Ahmadi, who was the former chairman of Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. All right, let's hear from him what he has to say. He's also a lawyer, and then we'll come back to wrap up this video. Don't go away. Sam Ahmadi.
Dr. Sam Ahmadi, you are the legal eagle here, so we defer to your assessment. If the EFCC genuinely had evidence strong enough to obtain a court order, should political timing override the rule of law?
Well, it shouldn't, but let's put this in perspective. First, this was the president needed to, it's Monday morning quarterbacking, own goal. They had to save his face. So I'm embarrassed. Don't forget, the closure was announced by presidential handle. So the presidential handle announced the action taken by EFCC. And that presidential handle says, I'm embarrassed. So it doesn't quite square up. So basically, this was a gambit that failed. Like Mamu Jiga said, it was electoral interference. Okay, if you look at the ECOWAS protocol on democracy and good governance, you're not even supposed to change rules, change laws 6 months to the election. This is election 10 days, okay? Again, you're talking about sub-sovereignty. EFCC cannot close an account of a state government in anticipation that money will be dissipated. Look, the government has a right to spend funds, even dissipate them. After the act, you can prosecute them, prosecute officials. So this was I'm surprised. The EFCC chairman, I've met him 3 hours conversation. He's quite an innovative guy, committed to, fighting corruption. This is, like I tweeted, for me, the first test that you can't stand political pressure. It clearly was an APC strategy to close down on capacity of Osun State government.
You're basically stopping the account before they've actually done it.
anything.
Mahmoud Jega will know this. In journalism, we call it prior restraint, where you hold someone before they've actually done anything.
If they were, and again, where has it happened before? Which state government have you, anticipated they're going to spend their money, waste it, or steal it? Let's stop them from using it. Are you going to ban them perpetually, or after the election you lift it up? So it was unconstitutional. Doesn't make sense, failure of regulation, but the president needed to act to save his face because there was now a mass build-up. Win, you lose. Kick, you don't kick. So if the president did not step in, it was already a bad kick. Stepping then, he has now worsened the situation because now it seems like, for example, like he said, EFCC, he could have made a call and EFCC will go back to court to get the order out. But now, he said, I'm embarrassed. I have to really take this action to stop you guys. Look, everybody knows. Like Delegate said, he said, all cried in the morning, and the child died. Crack, at night, the child died. So clearly, and again, this is also a pointer to 27. I think maybe we have learned a lesson. EFCC has no business dealing with corruption about candidates. Election has to go on. Then you have the time to prosecute. So don't wake up tomorrow and say you are stopping AGC, you're stopping Atiku Abubakar from running, arresting, detaining anybody. That is no. It violates ECOWAS protocol on democracy and good governance since 2001. It's clear. Elections must be seen to be free and fair, including allowing actors use of their resources and time. We can always wait for them, prosecute them. Again, this is a governor with immunity. I mean, if you can't prosecute the governor, why are you stopping from using funds that belong to the state? Ostensibly, you say you have been monitoring this fund before. He didn't act before the election, and he couldn't wait after 10 days to act. It doesn't make sense. This is just APC's strategy to rig election.
All right. Welcome back. So you heard what he was saying in Arise News the other day. He said that this whole thing is an own goal. The government does call an own goal, which I agree with him. Serious own goal. They just shot themselves by themselves on the leg. So when the bodies are not working together, this is what you see. We also have the same thing in the power sector. The Minister of Power came out and said they're going to remove subsidy in power by 2027. The presidential spokesperson the next day countered him and said they are not removing, they are not hiking tariff. So because when they understood that what the man said will affect them in the election, because when people are expecting hike in price of tariff and subsidy removal, because the moment subsidy is removed in power sector, then the burden shift to the people. So the people will now perceive that suffering is coming from what they are already in that the worst scenario is even coming by January, by 2027. It will affect people voting for them. That's why the spokesperson from the presidency came in to kind of counter what the minister is saying. And the minister the next day came to reverse himself to say, oh no, there are no more removing subsidy in power, that there's no plan for that, no policy on that, this and that, just for people to calm down. Let them win the election. The Nigerians will see the remaining thing they want to unveil. That's what it is. So from what Sam Amadi is saying, call it an own goal. And that the president's intervention to, direct EFCC to go back to court to get an order to vacate that freeze, that one is a strategy for the president or the government to save their face. Simple and short. Because there are a lot of questions in this whole thing. President intervention is trying to solve one problem. That intervention created another problem for them. So it's like blocking this hole and opening another hole. That's exactly what you can analyze it to be. How? What do I mean by that? Now let's look at it critically. When the account was frozen, right, the timing was the main focus. Nobody is disputing whether EFCC can, do all those kind of stuff with court order and all of that. But what people are concerned about is that the timing of them doing it is quite wrong, because election is coming up in that state, and that state is not the ruling party state. It's not an APC state. It's an opposition state. So it's a bad signal that they are sending. Having agreed with that, the president himself, in his tweet, which I read in his Twitter handle, said that he has no problem with the EFCC doing their job. But what he felt embarrassed was that the timing was somehow, tricky, because the opposition or the citizen may perceive it that this power at the center, the APC, the ruling party, is trying to intimidate the state, and it looks like election interference. But that's exactly what it is. It's election interference. Once you are bringing up things that will affect the outcome of an election, it's election interference, because this freezing of account will affect the outcome of the election. It will paralyze the state from spending money they're supposed to spend in one way or the other. It's not that the participant or the candidate is using state money to fund himself for election, for example, but There are services that will be rendered that day to the state, like police movement. The state can deploy police that is within their state to, provide securities and all of that. Who pays them? Who pays for the logistic and all? It's the state that will do all of it. It's not INEC that does that. It's the state. So if the account is frozen, where did they get the funding to do all of that? So you can see they will now be, their hands will now be tied from playing their own role as a state to support the election. And by then, everything is gone. So President mentioned the timing, which I agree with him. The timing was awful, definitely. But him directing INEC chairman to go back to court to get court order to vacate the freeze is another point. How? EFCC is supposed to be an independent organization. They're not supposed to be taking directive from the president. They're supposed to follow the act that established them and the constitution to be able to do their job, which that's the essence of everybody is equal before the law. But if president can sit in Aso Rock and direct the EFCC chairman to go and vacate a freeze order, the same way the president can direct the EFCC chairman to go after somebody, to go after organization, to go after anybody who is not in tandem with him. That is what this thing just revealed. It means that the president can wake up in the morning, call the EFCC chairman, and direct him to go and arrest somebody. It is what it is, which means EFCC technically is not independent. They are working and following instruction from the presidency. Is it good for the president to intervene? Yes, it's good, so that at least the state can breathe and be able to focus in the election, not battling with EFCC. Its intervention was good, but the problem with this intervention is that the president would have called the EFCC chairman behind the scene and direct him to go and do that. He's not supposed to tweet that to the public. He's not supposed to show the public the process, what he did. Nobody will even know that the president played a part. That's what he would have done, knowing fully well that him directing EFCC to go and vacate that order sends wrong signal on the independence of the EFCC, sends wrong signal on the actions of the EFCC. It also kind of suggests as if that the action of the EFCC was mandated from the presidency, if you look at it holistically. So I don't think they always sit down to think, so many things around the actions they want to take. I think they just wake up, just do something, and when anything is happening, pressure is coming on them, they just change it immediately without even thinking this action we now want to take to mitigate this thing. How good or bad will it be? Will it worsen the situation? They don't think of all these things because I don't know if they took Nigerians to be a fool. I don't know. I don't know whether they think Nigerians are dumb. I don't know. If they are not thinking, that doesn't mean every one of us as citizens doesn't think. We think. Because this would have been very simple. The president put a call across to the EFCC chairman and say, hey, this thing you guys are doing, I know you are doing your job, but it's creating negative image for the party. And even if we win that state, the citizen will not believe we won genuinely. So what I want you to do now, go and vacate that order. Go back to court, get court order, vacate that freezing order. I want you to do it immediately. And the FCC will go back. They could now unfreeze the account. They can just give an excuse that they just bury it, and then after election and everything is settled, they can now resume whatever they are doing. As far as that proceed in that account is not proceed of crime, they can track the money. They can simply work with the bank and say, hey, all this payment that is going, keep copies for us. We are coming to pick them as soon as the election is over so that we can track the money. They can do that. So I don't know why they came out publicly to embarrass the government, to embarrass the APC and Mr. President. And Mr. President tweeting that thing on his handle even is an additional embarrassment to his government. That's the honest truth with this whole thing. So when Dr. Sam Amadi called it an own goal, that's exactly what it means. Own goal is you scoring yourself, scoring goal in your own net. That's an own goal. So, and he also, I agree with him, saying that it's strategical, method for the president to save his face. But he was trying to save his face. He's also smashed his face, as the case may be. So I don't know who advises him. I don't know people that think for him. So when you have think tankers, people that can think broadly, not narrowly, because most actions of these people in government, these aides and all these people heading government agencies, when you look at their actions, most of their actions are just myopic. They are just small. They don't think broadly. And for you to function in this kind of position, you need to think broadly. This step I want to take, what will it cost me? What will it bring to the government? What is the implication? Citizen perception. The person I'm going to deal with, what will be his reaction? There are a lot of things you think so that we know what's the best approach to do what you want to do? And if any of those things you anticipated comes up, how do you mitigate them? How do you manage them? Because there are many people you already know. The moment you are doing anything wrong, it goes to the press, it goes to social media. How do you manage social media attacks, social media presence, social media reaction? How do you manage media, print, television and the rest of them? And what are you going to say? Like now, the president has directed them to do this. What are they going to say to the public? How they will continue to fight to maintain their image. They will continue to fight to convince citizens that they are independent as EFCC based on what just happened. So you can see, for them to kind of, whittle down Osun State power, weaken them politically for the election, they have created problem for themselves. They have created problem for the president and the presidency. That's exactly what it is. Are they doing their job? Yes, they are doing their job. But look at the implications. So doing your job and costing you, the government, its image, and also kind of creating bad image and publicity for the president, which we call negative news. You know what it takes to clean negative news? It takes a lot, because this action they took is everywhere globally. It's in all the social media platform. It's every print and television houses. So how do you see that? I can't imagine how the Osun State people will see them now. I can't imagine the outcome of that election in Osun State. That's why I said, if the president is working with wisdom, just allow Osun State to win. Just do anything you can do to support Osun State to win. That's the Accord Party candidate, the governor, the incumbent governor. Support him to win the election. That's how you can save your face. Then that's when you can now come back and be telling the citizens that the government is neutral, the government is not interfering in any election. You saw what happened in Osun State. They'll be using it as precedent that they frozen their account, president intervened. And the election was free, fair, and credible, and the Accord Party won, this and that. That's how you can clean this image, because anything that happens in Osun that the incumbent didn't win, forget it. There's nothing you do. People will believe that the election is not rigged. So, suspicious activity. The bank should file, SAR, suspicious activity report. They should file suspicious activity report. Provide details of the account, the movement, who is the counterparty or the third party, who is getting the money, to where is the money going to, what are those people doing, what are they consortium, do they have contract with the government and all of that. When they provide these details, it goes to the EFCC for further investigation, or NFIU, Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit, and they do further investigation. Whatever they now uncover from there, they nab the people, retrieve the ones they can retrieve, frozen those people's assets, sell it to get their money back. That's how it's done. So I don't know. I don't really know. So guys, I don't know what you think about the whole thing, but for me, I think there's quite a whole lot of own goals in this whole thing, and I think I don't know what they will do, how much it will cost them, and the time it will cost them to clean up their face in this whole thing, because no matter how you look at it, it was election interference, it was an intimidation of the state. They are trying to frustrate that state so that at the end of the day, they will have no capacity to match them money to money or whatever it may be in that election. It's not today that states are holding an election. Why is Osun case different? Why is the account frozen? Ekiti State was not frozen. Anambra was not frozen. When they are giving you excuses that, during an election, they do this and do that. When the new governor comes in, they will now be saying that they left debt, there's no money in the account, this and that they did it in Edo, and they saved 12 billion. Who is in Edo? PDP. Who took over there now? APC. The person that is ruling party today can be opposition tomorrow. It happened to PDP before us. So when the APC goes back to be opposition, and when these things are happening to them, when they complain, I know the citizen will answer them very well by that time. So that's why it's good to play fair, be transparent and credible in whatever you are doing. That's why they said in justice system that when justice is served, it is seen to be served. So now, if the justice that is served is not seen to be served, it's not total justice. EFCC is doing their job, but their action, people are not seeing the action they took to freezing that account as being fair to the state. That is why people were shouting and crying about it. So, EFCC, you guys are doing your job, no doubt about that, but please, next time, think broadly over your actions, the timing, and all of that, so that we get things done properly, to avoid, bringing negative news to the government and kind of creating impression that you are a tool of intimidation and a tool of oppression for the presidency. That's my take on that. So guys, I don't know what you think about this whole thing. My comment section is open for you. Drop your comment at the comment section. And also, if you are new to my channel, please kindly like and share this video, and also subscribe to my channel and put on your notification bell so that when my next new video drop, you'll be among those that will be notified. Thank you for watching this video to the end, and thank you for your subscriptions. For those that like and share this video, I appreciate that. I will see you in my next video. I'm signing out. See ya.